Hi, guys, it's Rishmina, and welcome back to the Peppy Podcast. Welcome, welcome. I know I've been away for a really long time, and the reason is that I've been busy studying for exams. And now that they're finally over, I want to speak about something that I've been meaning to address for a while. So, today I want to speak to you about grief and heartbreak. And the reason I've chosen this topic is because I've faced the loss of a few relationships in the recent past. And when I say grief, I don't mean death necessarily. I just mean a relationship ceasing to exist. So that could be just a friendship ending or losing a family member or even a relationship not working out. So, personally, what made it very hard for me to deal with grief was that the losses were very closely spaced to one another. And I felt like before I'd gotten over the first loss, the second one hit me. And then I felt like my emotions were sort of piling up and becoming really overwhelming and hard to deal with. So, today I want to speak about the little things that helped me deal with my grief. The first thing that really helped me was giving myself a lot of time and space to process it. I felt like with each month that passed, I was a little bit better able to deal with the feelings of loss. I feel like the issue with this situation was that my conscious mind knew that the relationship was over, but my subconscious mind was so habituated to having that person around and having a certain equation that when the situation had changed, it wasn't being able to adjust to that big difference in reality. The second thing that helped me was acknowledging that grief comes and goes in waves. I feel like there were times when I was completely fine and happy and just going about my life. And then suddenly something would happen that would remind me of my loss, and it would hit me like a train. And I'd get so overwhelmed and so sad. And suddenly I would start spiraling because all those feelings of negativity and loss would suddenly come and drag me down. The other thing that helped me when I felt like this was talking to people about how I was feeling. So I reached out to a couple of my friends and I told them about how low I was feeling about the situation. And they supported me and reassured me a lot during that time. A friend of mine told me that if my absence meant nothing to someone's life, then why would my presence add any significance? She asked me to consider if the people who I had lost from my life were worth all the importance and all the power I was giving them. She asked me to think if the amount of value I was giving to them and to their feelings was really that important that it would matter more than my own. And I think when I started to think of it like that, it was a major step in moving forward for me. The other thing that really helped me cope at that time was sitting down and writing letters to those people. So I would write long letters and say everything that I had wanted to say, but I hadn't really been able to convey or express. I would get all the emotions out of my system. I would even try and explain myself because there were lots of moments where I'd felt misunderstood or hadn't felt heard. And when I wrote those letters, I felt like I was being heard, but I didn't ever send those letters. I just wrote them for my own peace and for my own clarity and my own closure. The other thing that also helped me deal with this was realizing what triggered my feelings of loss. So, for example, if I would see a post on social media that reminded me of this person because it was their photo, then I noticed that suddenly I would get overcome with an emotion again. So at that point, I took a call to sort of minimize my triggers and maintain my own mental health. So I decided to remove those people from my social media, which some people might say is a childish or petty thing to do. And I think that I'm okay to seem petty and childish if it helps me cope a little bit better with such a heavy, deep emotion in that moment. Now, after so many months have passed and I've had a lot of time and space from the situations that hurt me, when I look back, I think that it was honestly for the best, because if someone's in your life and there is a lot of friction, and for whatever reason, one or two or more people are getting negatively affected, and if someone decides to step back and set boundaries, then I completely respect and understand that. And I also realize that I don't want to have any sort of relationship with someone who doesn't want to have a relationship with me. So if things weren't working out, and if this is how things were meant to be, then so be it. I'm completely fine with that. So that brings me to the end of my episode. I hope you found all these little points relatable if you have dealt with any grief in your life, and I hope that you haven't, because it is quite difficult to process. But I do hope that if you are dealing with any of this, then you find ways to help yourself get through the difficult times. Thank you for listening to the Peppy Podcast, and stay tuned for our next episode. Remember to follow us on Spotify and on Instagram, and I will see you next time.